Hi, and welcome along to episode 17 on Matchday 17 of the Qatar World Cup 2022. My name is Chris, and this is the Ultimate Football Show podcast. Today we're joined by Stamfordchidge once again, a Chelsea fan, broadcaster and writer, an all-round lovely guy who knows a thing or two about football. And today on Matchday 17 there are two games, the two final games in the round of 16 as Morocco take on Spain in what could be a bit of a bruising encounter, and then Portugal up against what Gary calls boring Switzerland. It's all coming up on today's episode. This is episode 17. We're very happy to support the LilyWhiteFoundation.com, advancing young people through sport. For more information, visit LilyWhiteFoundation.com. You're listening to the Ultimate Football Show podcast with Gary Chivers and Chris Barnett. So match day 17 comes up on Tuesday, and the final two games in the round of 16, it's Morocco, Spain, and Portugal, Switzerland. Gary Chivers says Switzerland are boring. You couldn't watch them every week. They don't seem to do anything. What they do is get through to the round of 16 up against Portugal. And Switzerland, I guess you'd have to say, you wouldn't have expected Shaqiri to be as good as he has been in the tournament. Not only, as he's got a terrific left foot that he can do anything with, but he's scoring goals, isn't he? And we haven't seen that in our country over in the Premier League for ages now.
No, that's absolutely right. I mean, this is quite an intriguing one, this one. I think this will be quite close. I mean, I think it's easy to write Portugal off going, oh, well, they've only got Ronaldo I mean, Pepe is now, the loathsome Pepe, I should say, is now 40 years old, I think. And you think, oh, well, but actually you look beyond that and you look at the players that they've got. They have got some players, mate. They really have. I mean, okay, Ronaldo, I think, is still a threat at this level. But, they've got Neves playing for them, Fernandes. They've got some people that we know and are very familiar with in terms of the Premier League. So you cannot write them off. Bernardo Silva, Carvalho, Jose Felix. That side is Diaz. That side is dotted around with really decent players. So write them off at your peril. Switzerland, on the other hand, I can't work them out at all. I mean, they're very what I would call nuggety, I think. Probably exemplified best with the Granit Xhaka in their side. But I tell you what, they don't half-leak a few goals. As of Portugal, funny enough, I mean, if you want goals in a match, this could well be the one. So therefore, put money on a 0-0 if I've said that. But
you didn't prefix Granit Xhaka with the disastrously horrible of a man, Granit Xhaka. What happened? Did you miss that bit out?
Yeah, I did. Absolutely loathsome player, okay. a bit like Pepe, but he's effective for them. I mean, he's actually, to be fair to him, he's been pretty effective for Arsenal this season. I mean, hitherto he's been a red card waiting to happen, hasn't he, for Arsenal, much to our hilarity. But this season, I think he's been really effective for them actually in holding that midfield together. So I think it's a tough one to call. I really do. As I said, I wouldn't be surprised if there's goals in this one, given how many they've both conceded in the group stages. But I can see them duking it out really, and maybe a kind of a last minute Ronaldo goal for the sentimentalness. I tell you what's really intriguing about the whole of this round of 16. You could end up with you've got Netherlands, Argentina, England, France. You could have Brazil versus Croatia. Is it Brazil versus Croatia and Portugal versus Spain?
Correct.
That is a great quarterfinal lineup if ever you wanted one. It's a classic World Cup quarterfinal lineup, I think.
Yeah, and that would be brilliant, wouldn't it, if that all does conspire to come that way. What about Morocco? They play Spain. Of course, Spain, well, the enigma that is Alvaro Morata, who, as I said to you earlier on when we spoke, scored a wonderful hat-trick at Stoke. Okay, it wasn't a Wednesday night, but it was still at Stoke, and there were three brilliant goals that could have come out from Real Madrid, really, the way he scored those. I just think he gets bored. And, like Ronaldo's 100%, I'm going to do it and focused. I think Moraes is just like 80% focused. And the rest of it's like, I'm earning loads of money here and I'm enjoying myself. But I'm not really bothered if I'm the best in the world, because he could be. Because he scores the goals, doesn't he?
He's got a lot of talent, and we saw that at Chelsea. He scored some super goals. I remember when I watched him play, the way he moved, he reminded me a little bit of Ozzy, and the way he kind of, it was just so easy. It's just an easy movement about him. And he had a lot of talent. But I think, I'm not sure if it's, because he gets bored. I think there's a mentality issue there. The really, really elite players are, they've got that hunger and that desire and that commitment, and they're very, very mentally tough. And I don't think he is. And I think the first whiff of trouble that he got at Chelsea, that was it. He couldn't do it anymore, couldn't handle the pressure, couldn't handle the expectation. Who knows? But I think there's something about his mental attitude that's not quite right for me. Very interesting to see that one thing that we did see a lot of at Chelsea was, the classic Azpilicueta to Morata assist.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if we'll see a bit more of that. Although Aspie's not necessarily getting, is he? Would you say he's starting? I don't know. It's because he played some of the group games and not others, so it's hard to tell. But
yeah, I think when he was at his peak, he wasn't playing for Spain.
No,
and then when he sort of faded a little bit, and then got a bit of a bit part, he was part of a three at the back. Then he was a part of a four at the back. Then he was a wing back for a while. They started playing him then when he probably had his best days were like a season or two before.
Yeah, I mean, I love Aspie to death, but I think most people will say his legs have gone. And frankly, I don't think he's ever been a really good crosser from the right. But that notwithstanding, maybe, I don't know, maybe at the international level it suits him a bit. Maybe the pace of the game's a bit slower than it is in the Premier League, and that allows him to do it. Plus the fact, of course, Spain keep hold of the ball so well. I mean, they're absolutely brilliant at it. It's a bit like watching Barca and Man City, the way they ping the ball around. I mean, they've been, I know that they lost Japan, but their other games, they were a joy to watch. Clearly got an abundance of talent. I just wonder what it would be like if you can get at them a bit. I get a sense that they are get-atable at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. I think a couple of tackles flying in there.
Yeah.
And Morocco might be that team that's going to throw a few shin pads out of the dressing room. What's your take, and what's Chelsea's take on Hakim Ziyech? Because obviously he hardly played a minute for Chelsea since Graham Potter arrived. He comes on in bit parts for like 10, 15 minutes or even less sometimes. But for Morocco, he's quite integral, isn't he? Obviously, he's one-footed pretty much. Everything comes in on his left foot. But what he can do with that left foot is quite astonishing sometimes. What's the take? Is he going to go? Will Chelsea persevere? I mean, the fans seem to like him. He's doing all right for when he does come on, but the manager doesn't seem to want him.
Well, I don't know about the fans liking him. Most of the people I know can't abide him. I think the common consensus from most of the people I know that after that Dinamo Zagreb away game, where he was unbelievably shocking, was that they didn't want to see him in a Chelsea shirt ever again. And I think had Tuchel stayed, that would have been the case, although Potter seems to have taken much the same attitude. But you're right, he's an enigma wrapped around an enigma. I mean, he's clearly got an abundance of talent, but I think he's a cameo player for us. As you said, you see it in flashes and glimpses.
Yeah.
There's a lot he tries that doesn't come off spectacularly horribly. And sometimes he doesn't put a shift in. And when you're playing for Chelsea, you're expected to put a shift in defensively as well as up an attack. And I think maybe you could categorize him as a bit of a luxury player. And I think most sides can only afford to have one luxury player. And I don't think Ziyech is the guy you would build a team around and allow that to happen. I think he'll be off. I really do, because I don't think he wants to stay, because I don't think he's getting played enough. Having said all of that, for Morocco, he's clearly inspirational, and he's been their best player for most of the games he's played in. I mean, I think the one against Belgium, he was excellent, wasn't he? So he's clearly vital to them. Well, again, a bit like Japan, whether they've got enough to get one over Spain, is a moot point. It's a kind of an interesting derby in a way, isn't it? Spain Morocco. I hadn't thought of that before.
Yeah, they're very close, aren't they? They're not far away from each other at all. And obviously, they speak different languages. Morocco's French, isn't it? Spain is Spanish. But I think it's going to be a bit of a feisty affair. I think you're right. I think Spain need to be tested physically, and I think Morocco are the ideal partners to do that, and just give it to a little bit of aggro here and there, a bit of kicking now and again. Morocco will try and take it to Spain in that regard and just rough them up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean that's what I would do, if I was playing them, and I think Morocco have got a bit of an edge to them, so maybe they're the ones to do it. I mean, it's I've said already, in an ideal world, the classic quarterfinal lineup would be, as I said, Netherlands, Argentina, France, England, Croatia, Brazil, and Portugal, Spain. I mean, Portugal, Spain would be just absolutely cracking as a quarterfinal, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And yet, on the other hand, all the way through this, I've been looking at the draws thinking, well, there's an upset here waiting to happen. I had a suspicion it might be United States against the Dutch. It could have been Australia against Argentina. There was sense in that. I always thought Poland would get stuffed by France. I was worried about Senegal for obvious English reasons. And now we're saying, well, maybe it could be Japan or maybe it could be Morocco. And I think maybe out of all of these, Morocco could be the most likely. They're not what I would call minnows, really, are they? I mean, they've been around a long time and they've got some decent players. So maybe our upset will come from the Morocco-Spain match.
We're very happy to support the LilywhiteFoundation.com, advancing young people through sport. For more information, visit LilywhiteFoundation.com.
I'm Gary Chivers, and this is the Ultimate Football Show podcast.
Well, my thanks to Stamfordchidge for joining us again on episode 17 and the final games in the round of 16. We're off to the quarter-finals next. They take place on Friday and Saturday. Episode 18 will be back for the Friday games in the quarter-finals of the 2022 Qatar World Cup. We'll see you then.